Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone, and we are talking about Babylon 5, Season 5, Episodes 14, 15, and 16. That's Meditations on the Abyss, Darkness Ascending, and All My Dreams Torn Asunder. And so we're getting really close to the finale here. I didn't realize how much progress we had made until I watched that last episode last night, and then I realized, there's really not that many episodes left. So
6 left.
So why don't you walk us through the first episode, and then we can talk about it.
Sure. Meditations on the Abyss. We have Delenn sending Lanier off on a mission where he's technically doing his ranger training, but he's also looking for evidence if the Centauri are involved in the raiding that's going on. And he joins the crew of the Maria. And meanwhile, back on Babylon 5, Londo makes Veer the next in line to be ambassador when he heads back to Centauri Prime, which he's not doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was some distortion there for some reason. Can you hear me, Adam?
Oh, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Continue. There was just a little bit of interference.
Yeah. Did you catch any of that, or?
I caught everything but like the last sentence.
Oh, last sentence was just. So, what did you think of this episode?
So I liked it. I thought that the next two were better episodes, in my opinion. This definitely had stuff that was engaging. It was kind of Top Gun-like in a way because they had Lanier sort of going back into training, even though he's not really a trainee. And I was a little unclear. The commander of that vessel, who I really liked, I thought the guy that they hired, I felt like there was a more big-name actor they were going for with this guy, he felt
Montoya
right.
Montoya was the character,
Yeah, but did he? I was a little unclear. Did he know that Lanier was there to do what he was doing, or was he? Because he seemed to understand that Lanier was at least more experienced than the other.
I don't think he knows Lanier's mission. I mean, because remember, Lanier tells him up like early on that, hey, I worked with Sheridan and Delenn, and he's like, ooh, big fancy pants. But no, but yeah, he didn't know about the actual mission with the Centauri. That was something Lanier was up to on his own. But yeah, the issue with this is just like, I don't know, we've got all these big things going on, and I mean, a big part of this episode deals with the other character who I didn't care enough to even remember his name, and I didn't actually. Now I think about it, that other guy who's insecure, and I'm just like, I don't know, I don't really.
Right, Findel.
Oh, Fidel, that's it. Yeah, I just wasn't that engaged with that plot line, really. I mean, I liked Montoya a lot. That made the episode good, and I mean, it was cool getting to.
Oh, go ahead.
I say, and it was cool getting to see Minbari fighters from the inside and stuff. I'm like, oh, those cockpits are kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was a nice. I thought that was cool. The interior of the fighter vessel was really neat looking, and it fit the Minbari approach, and it just worked. It worked visually on screen a lot. It kind of reminded me. It had like a 2001 vibe to it. Something about the aesthetic of the inside of that. It reminded me of the when he's crawling through the HAL.
That's right.
But I liked Montoya's solution to that guy, to Findel's problem. Now, I don't know how Findel got to the point that he did, because he obviously did not belong there.
That's another kind of hole in the episode I was wondering about. But it seems like you're pretty, you've been training for a while, apparently, to get to this stage.
But then think about it this way. We live in a world where a guy like Garibaldi can be the head of a massive intelligence organization. So I think it's reasonable. That brings me to the other part. I'm a little torn about the Garibaldi storyline. On the one hand, I think it's better than having it be the Franklin one. And it's kind of interesting that at the start of the show, Franklin was the guy who was like the annoying character. And Garibaldi was like not the annoying character. You know what I mean? Like Franklin was a little bit self-righteous and difficult to deal with, and Garibaldi was sort of more, I don't know, like he didn't grate on you. And now it's kind of gone in the opposite direction, where I really like Franklin now. Like Franklin is one of my favorite characters because it's like he filed down some of the rougher edges on the righteousness, and he's just found the right center for all this stuff.
He's just a really good guy at this point. Is all he is.
You would want to have a beer with Franklin, and you would also want him by your side in a crisis. And Garibaldi, I would not want by my side in a crisis, and I definitely wouldn't want to have a beer with him. So,
the thing is, he's just, comparing it to the Franklin thing, it's like Garibaldi just when he drinks is completely like incompetent. Like it's like, with Franklin and his addiction, I mean, he'd be kind of on the borderline, but when he was doing his stim things, he could still function. Whereas with Garibaldi, it's like he just drinks and he's just a complete screw up, completely.
Franklin was taking a performance-enhancing drug. He was taking something because he was so dedicated to his craft. He wanted to always be at peak condition for it. Garibaldi is taking a drug that takes away from his ability to do what he needs to do, and he's trying to escape from the stresses of he's running away from his job. Franklin was running toward, Franklin was just too committed. There were opposite problems. But I feel like I don't know. The thing that bothers me about Garibaldi is just he just gets so annoying when he gets this way. Like he and I know he's supposed to be that way. He's supposed to be annoying, but like his just inability to take any responsibility. Like he's responsible for massive failures by the end of these 3 episodes. Like massive, there's no excuse for him being in that position anymore. He needs to be removed for the safety of everybody. And and he should be the first person to acknowledge that. Like that, I think at one point he even reveals that he's the head of the intelligence agency when he's ordering a pizza. He mentions that he's the leader of the covert intelligence operation on Babylon 5 to the pizza guy, and who knows if that goes anywhere. But
I don't know if that's secret though. Is it a secret that he's got that job or not? I'm unclear.
He said
on
covert. So I'm assuming that means. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming that means he's supposed to be at least discreet about it.
Either way, it was a weird thing to do. That's for sure.
And I mean, can you imagine? The head of like the Department of Homeland Security or the CIA calls you and announce, in a drunken stupor. Even if you know who they are, the fact that they're drunk and ordering a pizza is troubling.
That's definitely the case. Definitely the case. But yeah, No, I'm with you, and it's just I just don't feel entirely comfortable with what's going on with Garibaldi from the standpoint too that I don't know if he's so big on not doing this thing, why is he? I don't know. I mean, it's just a really he has no interest in following up on anything he's doing as the intelligence head. I don't know. It's just it's a weird angle, but
and I don't. I mean, and again, I think it's some of the stuff they do. It doesn't get afternoon special. You know what I mean? There are moments when it kind of does, but it's not because it's Garibaldi. It's not as bad as it could be. I think the Franklin episodes with the drugs. It felt like, well, that's not like a real addiction. He's addicted to like coffee, basically. And in this, at least, it's a real addiction. Like you can definitely see it's like a real addiction. But I just feel like he should have gotten the boot. Like the constant, like, and in fairness, I mean they handled it well. Zach is probably the one, and I know this isn't an upcoming episode. It's not this one, but the people that should be sort of managing him, it's believable the way that they deal with him. But I don't know. I don't know where it's going. I'm just hoping that they resolve it before the third catastrophe. Do you know what I mean? So, but I don't know. What was your overall view of the episode?
I liked it overall. I mean, like I said, I complained about the whole plot line with the rookie that Lanier's coaching and so on, but I didn't hate it or anything. I just was like, well, I don't know if it just felt like pretty petty for this with all the epic things going on and how late we are into the series. I'm like, it just didn't add a whole lot to the show, but it was fine. I think Montoya added a lot to that, and But of course, another element too is that Lanier is on this mission secretly. Delenn has given him the mission without telling Sheridan, which is comes up again later. But yeah, this was a solid episode. But it's like you say, the next two are better because this is kind of just laying the groundwork for what will happen in the next two.
And we do get a lot of important Delenn and Lanier stuff in this. And again, I think
Yeah,
Delenn is sending him very mixed signals, I feel, because
yeah,
he's clearly in love with her. It's written all over his face. I mean, she should be able to see it, even if he's not. I don't think he's actually said it to her, and I don't know if she knows or not. I can't remember if there's been a moment where she's sort of at least indicated that she's aware. But when she tenderly touches him like that, he's obviously, he's looking for any, ray of hope he can find, and so it's just a very perilous situation. And then to then send him into this mission, it seems like a really dangerous cocktail to me. Like, I know he's the best person, but there's not like one other Minbari that's that's passable for the job.
Yeah, well, the other thing too, this is something I forgot actually. There is one crucial part in the whole Lanier coaching the rookie plot line, which is Lanier lectures him about your desire to be on Lashak must be pure. You can't do this for the wrong reasons. And it's like, well, aren't you doing this to impress a girl?
Well, yeah, no, and it's funny too because Lanier he's playing the character a little bit differently this episode too. I noticed that like his mannerisms are less nerdy, for lack of a better word. Lanier's always he was always kind of boyish and nerdy, and he does not feel boyish and nerdy this episode. He's got a much more muted effect, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it also makes me a little bit nervous, because it doesn't. I don't think Lanier is suited for that sort of life. That's not the Lanier that I don't think he's meant to be. On Lashak. I think he's meant to be,
religious cast.
Yeah, I think he's meant to scribe books. Like that's his.
Yeah. He's a historian.
He's at his peak when he's putting motorcycles together for Garibaldi. That's what Lanier needs to be doing, and he does not need to be going on life and death missions. And I mean, he's a good person to have on deck, obviously, like if technical stuff is required. But he's not somebody I want going out like in a solitary fighter. Being I don't know what the term for Minbari would be, but being a man, like that's just not his thing. So I don't know. So I'm concerned for Lanier, and I think we see further evidence that that's needed as the episodes unfold. But why don't we get into Darkness Ascending?
Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't even when I was watching these episodes, it didn't even occur to me how dark the names of all these episodes are.
Yeah, it's a pretty gloomy trilogy we've got to talk about this week. I was thinking about watching the episodes. I'm like, man, this is a pretty grim series of episodes. Usually there's like at least one lighter one in the mix or something.
Yeah.
But no. But yeah, this one obviously the plot line with Lanier continues in this one with him figuring out what's going on with the other ships. Sheridan finds out what Lanier's up to. Lita talks to, she attempts talking to planetary expeditions to get their help for the site telepaths, and ends up going to Jakar in this episode. And Lise, Garibaldi's lover, shows up in this episode. So those are the balls we're juggling in this one.
And the Lolita one was interesting because that you had mentioned tone, and that was actually one of the few things in the episode that got into sort of lighter territory at certain points. But it also had this really dark undercurrent to it the whole time. Like there was that scene where I think Garibaldi wakes up during a dream and he sees Lita and her eyes are all shiny, and she says, "I've decided to not hide what the Vorlon did to me. You shouldn't be up. Go to sleep." And then he wakes up again, and you don't know if it's a dream. It's probably not a dream. That probably happened, but it could be a dream.
Yeah, it's really ambiguous. Yeah, it was very kind of Twin Peaks-ish moment there in the show. But
it was Twin Peaks meets oh god, I'm blanking on the name of the movie. The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger on Mars.
Oh, Total Recall.
Total Recall.
Yeah.
It had a Total Recall vibe to me. And so, but then the rest of the stuff with Lita was a lot more light, and it was her dealing with. And Jakar had asked her in the pilot, I think, to
Yes.
he wanted some of her DNA, and it's funny because it's never been brought up again. But and I thought it was just like, okay, they tried it and didn't work, so they're not going to bring that back with Jakar. But it was clear that Jakar was kind of putting the moves on her when because he was like, well, we could do it by just we could just take a sample of your DNA, or we can do it the old fashioned way. And he had kind of a look in his eye, and this they sort of confirmed that Jakar has the hots for Lita Alexander. And it's interesting because I don't think we've ever seen Jakar have any interest in anybody the entire series, right? Like, has there been any other character where he's...
No, it's all kind of off stage. I mean, like in the first season and second season, he does kind of a lot of womanizing in the background, but it's like it's not... there hasn't been any character relationship with him at all. So yeah, you're right. It does give it a little more weight.
Yeah, because there was I think you're right. There was a scene where somebody came to his quarters and he was occupied. But this was different. That was he was an ambassador who it was a much different situation. This felt more like he had like an earnest attraction to Lita, and he was worried that it wasn't reciprocated. Like, that was sort of the vibe I was getting from it.
There was definitely some chemistry going on in those scenes, though.
And it was funny because she was kind of flirting back with him, and I don't know if it was because she had these goals that she wants, and so she's just willing to placate him in that way, or if I don't know. I don't know in this universe how common it is for Narn and humans to find each other attractive, but Jakar's he's a charismatic person, so it's not beyond the realm of believability that it's reciprocated. So I found that even though we know Jakar's going to end up with Londo trapped on Centauri the next episode, it was a nice moment. It was like a nice sort of exchange, and also they brought back things that like you hadn't thought about, like that. I think there was some weird thing that he mentioned in the pilot about her pleasure threshold and something to do with the way that Narn. And she'd obviously done her research, and she was like, "Oh, Jakar, by the way, you asked me if I have a pleasure, what my pleasure threshold is." He's like, "I don't have one." And so, and again, they're never going to go anywhere with it, but it was like, it was amusing to sort of bring back these things and to have, there was like a remarkable degree of confidence on the Lita Alexander character's part, the way that she was handling Jakar in that situation. That I don't know. It was a surprising scene. I wasn't expecting it.
No, I mean it was a good scene because obviously she was negotiating with him, but yeah, there was a warmth between the characters at the same time, so it worked. And of course, then we get the later scene too, where we get the answer. But I don't remember if that was this episode or the next one. I think that was this episode.
I think it was, and basically he agrees, and he kind of tries to trick her. And again, it's not clear if she's tricking him or he's tricking her. But he says, okay, but there's one requirement: you need to occasionally spy on the ambassadors, from time to time. Just give us some information. And number one, when he said that, I was like, that does not sound like Jakar this season. That sounds like Jakar from 5 seasons ago. I think that is he just like, are they messing up his character, or is this like a ruse? And so she says, well, I can't do that. And he's like, okay, good, because that was just a test. But I'm wondering, she could have scanned him and known that he was. You know what I mean?
She could have. She could have. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was though. I mean, I think she does, have some principles about the whole thing. I mean,
well. I'm interested to know where she's going with all this, because well, number one, I think it's good seeing that character take initiative, because she was sort of stuck in a place where she was becoming full of resentment and just like felt like, well, she was relying on Sheridan and all these other people to make things happen for her. And after the Byron plot, again, I don't know where she's going. Maybe she's going someplace incredibly dark. But right now, at least, she's taking initiative, and she's using the resources that she has, which are tremendous, because the Vorlon really tweaked her in a very powerful way. she's a capable character. She doesn't have to rely on these other characters, and so I think that's sort of the realization that she's had, and it's kind of nice to see that character finally come into her own and not go down this path where she's just getting more and more resentful.
Beat up. Yeah, Lita's just a very likable character for me. I generally enjoy when she's around on the show. So yeah, you're right. That was kind of the one ray of light through these 3 episodes, seeing her get a nice win there, so.
But then to get to the Garibaldi storyline, which actually I enjoyed. I didn't think I would, even down to the scene where like the wife finds the bottle, and that was very afternoon special. But I enjoyed it. I thought. Number one, I wasn't sure. Is this the same actress that plays Elise, or is it a different actress? Okay, because she just looked a little different. So. I don't know. I mean, sometimes people their hair is different or something, but maybe I just haven't seen her on screen long enough to really know what she looks like. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. She comes back, and he's not at all. So here's the other part that's a little annoying about Garibaldi. He spent so long pining over this woman and wanting her to come back.
I know.
And now that she's like, okay, I'm back, he wants nothing to do with her. Which, is behavior I've seen in people before, so it's not, in a person like Garibaldi, I can totally believe he's that type of person. But it's kind of like misery he's bringing on himself. And but the scene I liked was the scene when they go to dinner and he's trying not to drink. And the maitre d', who's sort of like, sort of the, in American movies when you want a place to be snooty, the maitre d' or the waiter has an English accent, and so he's got that snooty accent, and he's pushing the drinks on them really hard. He's like, "Would you like anything to drink?" And Garibaldi's like, "You know what? Just give me a coffee." And really that should be enough. Like, I've never been to a restaurant and somebody's asked me if I want a drink and I ask for coffee that they've pressed me to no, sir. I said, do you want any drinks? And so the guy just keeps pushing him, and Garibaldi sort of freaks out, and the wife is like, what are you doing? And I was sort of thinking in that scene, like, I don't know, Garibaldi had every right to kind of get snappy.
Yeah.
Like, the guy was really pushing the drinks, and Garibaldi told him like 5 times, I just want a coffee. So
he's at the theme restaurant, and it's like, the wait staff has a percentage of their novelty, cocktails they have to sell, per night, and he's pushing it hard. But would you like our apple martini? But
but it was, I don't know, I was like, that guy really deserved to kind of get snapped at. And then Garibaldi, and then there was a funny moment where Garibaldi leaves for a few minutes and pours some booze into his coffee, and the waiter sees him. He's like, "Oh, okay, you want the special coffee? I get you. I'll get you the special coffee every time now." So now there's a situation I realized where even if Garibaldi's trying not to drink, he could accidentally go to this restaurant, and the guy could give him booze-filled coffee, and he's off the wagon again.
But her getting mad at him over being mean to snapping at the waiter. It was kind of thing where, I had a problem with that from the standpoint that the episode does set up. She needs to be upset at him over the drinking thing. That's reasonable. But it's like having her get upset about something else. It just kind of pushes their characters too far into this antagonistic zone where it's like, well, you want us to see some good sides of this relationship so we care about the bad stuff, and her giving him like a hard time over some waiter being a jerk is,
Well, and also the reason he gets mad is he's trying not to drink. So to get mad at him because he's taking strong measures to not drink. It seems so. I mean, that would be the moment for her to be a little understanding, I think.
Well, her having the glass of wine too. So I was just like, "Geez, you're getting just a big fat glass of wine. You're gonna sit there and drink it in front of him? Come on."
Yeah. That was. I don't know. I think Garibaldi's definitely got his issues, but I have a feeling some of the problems in this relationship stem from Elise. I think that we can't let her off the hook entirely. And also Garibaldi. I mean, he's got a really high-powered, important position. So I mean, it's not like, do you know what I mean? It's there's some responsibility on the part of the person who's with him to sort of understand, oh my God, like this is like the president of the United States, or this is like the head of national security, and
Yeah.
and he has a serious problem. You know, like my personal stake in this person's relationship is less important than making sure that person does not drink. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But
So,
it is, you know, like you say, Garibaldi, you said earlier, Garibaldi's arc in this is really kind of frustrating because it's like, yeah, it's like you know, he's blowing off his job, but he's going, oh, I've got this important job with, you know, when he's talking to Lise, and it's like, and he just, yeah, it's like, it's hard, you know, it's because he basically doesn't want anything at this point. You know, I mean, it used to be when he'd be in a relationship and he's like, oh, I'm all about the job. He really was all about the job, but now it's hard to have sympathy for a character when there's absolutely nothing they really seem to want other than, you know, destroying themselves.
well, that's what he wants. He wants the booze. He wants to be drunk all day. That's what he wants. And so, I mean, you know, I just think I think that's fine. I just think Garibaldi probably is. So number one, if the thing with Bester didn't happen, I think this would be a little bit more believable. But I mean, if I was Sheridan, I'd be on guard for everything with Garibaldi, and I think also Sheridan bears a lot of the blame here because he put him in charge as, you know, intelligence without any checks and balances. You know, nobody to keep an eye on him, nobody to make sure he wasn't programmed in some weird way by Bester that they didn't find. You know, and the only person that there is to sort of keep tabs on him, I don't know if it was this episode or I think it might be next episode where Zach confronts him, but is Zach. And Zach is not in any position to really like Zach is his former pupil, if anything. So it's not you know, you can just totally see how Zach would not be an effective counterpoint to him. So yeah, I don't know. I think I mean, again, you know, it's intentional. It's not unintentional. So I mean, these are feelings that the writers want me to have. But but I feel like, you know, there's a little. They should have been a little bit more on guard against Garibaldi in this, you know, going down this path. I would think because they know about the drinking and they know about Bester, and so those two things, I'm gonna like just the way intelligence generally works. Like, you know, like they don't give people. You know, what is it? They give them. They don't give them security clearances when they have those kinds of issues. Like they look at like, does the person have you know, character issues related to things like drinking or whatever, mental health issues, you know, Bester manipulating your brain, financial issues. You know, it's like these kinds of things are what get exploited when people try to turn you know, an intelligence officer into an asset for their country or something. So I feel like Sheridan's a military guy. He knows, he understands how clearances work. He, you know, if he wants to be nice to Garibaldi and give him a good position where they can draw on his skills, fine. But maybe keep him in a room where they can draw on his skills, but he doesn't have the ability to allow a mission to fall to hell.
Yeah, the thing is, Garibaldi, as I brought up before, you know, way back when he was, you know, security chief early on, it's like, it's pretty clear this character is somebody who's like a really good detective but not a good administrator, because it's like his idea of running the Alliance's intelligence is doing everything himself. I mean, that's it. It's like, you know,
he's running it like a private security company that's run by one guy with no employees.
You know, because I mean, you know, the next episode will have the incident where he you know, just gets drunk and misses the signal. And it's like, well, why was the guy manning waiting for the signal him? I mean, you put one of your guys on that. You know, okay, when this signal comes in, let the White Star know, and, you know, but no, he does it all by himself, you know, 24 hours a day. And
no, it's, I mean, you know, it's like he runs it like a local business. You know what I mean? It's just like it's a little bit odd. Was there anything else in this episode before we move on?
Oh, well, there's the whole thing with Lanier tracking the you know, the Centauri ships.
Oh yeah, that was kind of important.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if there's a lot to say about it, because I mean, this kind of, you know, it's just the revelation in a lot of scenes, but But yeah, that's a big deal.
And it would happen. It just happens to also be, like really primo footage, because they have the people saying, we haven't done anything to you. Okay, take what you want, but spare the women and children. It's a very
Yeah.
it almost looks too good to be true. But which I'm sure is one of the reasons why Londo is very skeptical of it when they bring it to him next episode. But yeah, we should probably get into the next episode just to sort of capitalize on that revelation, which is really what the episode is about. So what happens in All My Dreams Torn Asunder?
Well, pretty much the title happens, but yeah, we have the at the end of the last episode, they Sheridan and Delenn got the actual intelligence from Lanier, and they have to reveal it to the council, and obviously they have a council session, and they shut Londo out of the session, and I feel they handled that very badly. But
yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
And from there, it basically spirals towards all-out war between the Alliance and the Centauri. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think of this one?
Oh, I thought this was a great episode. I had to stop myself from watching the next episode. We're getting into the sort of finale territory. It's a new war. Like, this is like, war has been declared, basically, it seems, and things are coming to a head, but it's not the same kind of conflicts we've had in the past. So it feels like you were saying the whole time, it feels like the right scale for a single season. But the other thing I liked about it is the scenes where Londo is sort of grappling with all of this, these revelations, and he's sort of going before the council when they finally do let him in, and trying to, make the points, that the Centauri want to make. It mirrors a lot of his earlier moments before the council, and he's saying a lot of the same stuff. He's basically, he's very good at sort of dismissing allegations. That seems to be Londo's strength, because these are airtight allegations, and he's, he immediately has the right, no, we have direct footage. We had, and he has all, very good counterpoints. But in his eyes, you don't get the sense that he believes his own counterpoints. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference here. I feel like he feels very tired. He feels he's not enthusiastically pursuing. Like, he's making the points, like professionally. Like he's making good arguments. But you can just tell that something in his eyes. He's not. He's skeptical of what his government is telling him, and he even raises points of skepticism when he's talking to them, privately. And so it's the downfall here seems to be the inner circle's treatment of Londo, and that they probably should have, like you were saying, they should have let him into some of those council meetings when these things were coming to light, so that he could have said something at the time. Maybe they should have informed him personally. You know what I mean? Just because he's the leak, but at this point, if it's going to devolve into war anyways, right? You might as well try to salvage Londo out of the situation.
Yeah, if he's the leak, going to him with this evidence would be enough for him to let him know, hey, don't pass this down the chain, because you're there. Because he isn't specifically the leak. He's the tube that leads to whoever the leak is, obviously
he's an unintentional leak. He doesn't realize that he's giving information that's being used against the Alliance. That's the
obviously, because it is the Centauri. It's just the Centauri government is effectively the bad guys here. So, but yeah, I feel like they could have handled Londo better in some way to try and deal with the situation. But yeah, it's a tough thing, because obviously the downside there is if they had told Londo ahead of time, and the rest of the Alliance found out, it'd be like, why are you tipping them off? Why are you giving them warning? Why are you giving them a chance to cover this up? So it is a difficult situation, but mainly a lot of it is I would have liked them to handle it better, because I like Londo at this point in the story, and it's just really sad to see Londo get trapped in this situation.
But also, just from a long-term strategic point of view, they know Londo is going to be the next emperor, right? So, like, that's so you want to if even just like removing the personal attachment to Londo, I think it was something where they know Londo's personality. Obviously, like he's easy to push into the darkness, and so doing what you can to not do that, give him a chance to at least, he's earned the right to sort of prove himself, right? Like he's done a 180. I know that the consequences could be catastrophic, but I mean, you give Garibaldi a second chance, you can certainly give Londo a second chance. So I think that they misstep, but it's an understandable misstep. It's one where it's like you said, all of the choices before them were not that good. And one of the things we know about Sheridan, he doesn't always make the right choice. That's kind of one of the interesting things about the show. He's the opposite of Sinclair. Sinclair always seemed to make the right choice. Like he always kind of thread the needle perfectly. And it's cool because that sort of makes sense that he would become like a prophet. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But Sheridan's a much more I don't know how to, he's got more flaws than Sinclair. And one of them is his decision making process isn't. He's good on the deck of a ship. He's not always good on these sort of more complicated calls.
We had that, a number of episodes back. We had the thing where he did the big strategic move of putting his White Stars in there, all blocking all the other ships, and the Alliance's reaction is just, you're being a jerk.
Yeah.
We don't like you. You're going to regret this because, we're just scared about our ships and you're just being a big bully. And I mean, it was like, it's just Sheridan going with his military mind, like, aha, I've got the perfect strategic move here. And no, it's not right when you're the president.
and I should say we had an interesting moment. I think it was a couple episodes back where G'Kar and Franklin kind of got some bonding time. When they've had bonding time, but
Franklin and who?
Franklin and G'Kar over the religious thing.
We missed that. I like that a lot too.
Well, I like because I had forgotten that Franklin was a Foundationist, and so it was actually important to be reminded of that because I was like, oh yeah, he is I keep thinking he's not like a religious person, but then no, he's got this Foundationist religion that he follows, and so it was interesting that he was the guy who read the book of G'Kar and thought he made some good points, and so you could see because basically I think a Foundationist, they're basically kind of like Jungians or like adherents of Joseph Campbell's like approach to or Houston Smith's approach to religion, and so I feel like he looks at it very metaphorically, looking for the common threads, and so I could see him finding G'Kar's book interesting, and so that was kind of it wasn't necessary. There was a lot of stuff going on, but it kind of it helped wrap up the Book of G'Kar storyline a bit, and we get a little bit more closure on it when G'Kar is about to leave for Centauri, and he gives Delenn like his corrections to because he's early in the Book of G'Kar he says some things that he's not 100% behind anymore. I do have to wonder if Delenn is the best vessel for that, because I don't think the Narn are gonna necessarily believe that this addendum presented to them by a Minbari is I can see it. True. I can see it dividing. I can see how there's going to be a sectarian line drawn where some people believe in the pure Book of G'Kar, that is, the without the addendum, and then the people who accept the addendum.
The New Testament.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit like that, I think, but I think it's also just sort of the even among Christians, there's
you're right. It's what books are apocryphal and what books aren't, kind of deal.
So I think some might consider the addendum apocryphal. Who knows what Delenn did to that document after it was handed it to her. But I liked that the Book of G'Kar is an exact replication down to the coffee cup stain. That was which was mentioned quite a while back.
But
But
Yeah, no, and it was just a nice moment between Franklin and Jakar. As we're getting, towards the end of the series, just the moments like, Jakar and Lita, Jakar and Franklin. It's just nice to have these kind of moments as we're getting close to the end of the series.
well, and one that I particularly liked was the Garibaldi line when he wasn't even present for the line, but he said that the coffee cup stain was Garibaldi's coffee cup, and Garibaldi said that it was the best part of the Book of Shaquan, because you could very easily see him saying that. So
Yeah.
that was I like that stuff, but it gets and like you said, there's like a lot of nice closure with the characters. Everybody's kind of going on their final pathway here, it seems. Zach has an opportunity to intervene with Garibaldi this episode. He kind of, I think he does about as effective a job as you could. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, obviously he could have reported Garibaldi, but I don't think Zach has that in him. So
No, I don't think he could, and I think then we would have been dealing with Zach having issues. So
as we learned back with the Night Watch plot line, Zach just isn't very good at reporting on people. Yeah. That's his downfall. It's why he made a bad Night Watch guy.
Well, it's also his strength, I guess. It's
I know, I'm joking.
Yeah. But no, I think too. I think he just didn't understand how precarious. He did understand how precarious things were, because he said, you're gonna, people are gonna die because of this. This isn't, and Garibaldi accused him of being melodramatic. But I mean, obviously, this isn't like he's not like the manager of Sears. He's the head of Babylon 5 intelligence, and he's managing an operation where lives are at stake. So it's not a melodramatic thing to say. And so I don't know. I like the exchange between them, and I thought Zach came out better in the end of it than Garibaldi.
Definitely.
So
yeah, Garibaldi was very manipulative in that in that way that addicts can be. Yeah. He just had that I just need more time, and who are you to judge me? I know all the terrible things you did.
Well,
yeah.
And the shame is Sheridan's the kind of guy that Zach could bring this to him, and Sheridan could smooth it over so that Garibaldi suffers the minimal amount of loss of face. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's you could easily see Sheridan saying, "Okay, I'm going to get him into some kind of medical treatment for the next 5 months," and I don't know if he has any other choices in terms of who would be the head of intelligence, but I'm sure he can find somebody. And because he certainly wouldn't want a drunk Garibaldi manning that.
No.
That it would be better to have because the issue was they needed somebody to receive the call, and so it just was the scene where Garibaldi is just passed out, and then the next scene where Sheridan's asking him what happened. He's like, I don't know. And he's just shifting blame to, and I was a little bit annoyed that his responsibility for that didn't even come to light during that conversation. I felt like it would have been reported to Sheridan that they were trying to reach Garibaldi and they couldn't. Like, that seems like a really big thing.
Yeah, there were a lot of red flags leading up to this, but I don't know. I guess Sheridan had a lot on his plate, but of course, we have Londo leaves the station and potentially forever. They say, he won't be let back while the war's going on, and maybe not ever. So maybe it's Londo's last time ever leaving Babylon 5.
Jakar goes with him. Jakar decides to remain as his bodyguard, which is a really brave but stupid thing to do. He is cutting himself off from any, like Londo is the only Centauri that we know of aside from Veer who likes Jakar, who wouldn't want him dead, and every other Centauri clearly wants him to die. You know what I mean? And on top of that, his relationship with Londo is very precarious at this moment. So there's a lot of Jakar must be a very hopeful person to to or just incredibly brave to be willing to go to Centauri like this.
Yeah, I don't know how precarious his relationship with Londo is though, because I think Londo really, they have the scene where Jakar goes to see Londo, and he's like, "Oh, did you finish telling them everything you learned when you were on Centauri?" And he's like, "No, I think Londo really respected the fact that Jakar wasn't spying on
No,
him.
that's
I
true.
think
But what I
that
mean
was
is, Londo, it would be so easy for even in that scene, Londo was suspicious of Jakar. You can
true.
imagine being trapped on Centauri Prime, surrounded by people that are hostile to you.
Yeah,
That's like they have a good relationship now, but it's not good enough. It's not like as good as Jakar and Franklin's relationship. I'd totally
yeah,
trust Franklin never to throw me in a jail cell. I
yeah.
wouldn't. I'm not 100% convinced Londo wouldn't throw me in a jail cell. We even get to a point where he has to make that kind of a call, and ultimately it turns out Londo. You're right. Londo sort of is is a good friend back to Shakar, and there's reciprocal loyalty there.
Mhm.
But leading up to it, there's a moment where I forget what position he is, but he's the guy who's like the go between for when you want to deal with the regent.
Yeah,
And
I
he's
don't
like,
know what his position is exactly. I
but
don't know
he
if
is
they've ever
just a
said.
he's just a smarmy, just a you're just supposed to despise this guy because he's
Yeah,
such a snooty go between, and I didn't know how Londo was going to react to that. I didn't think he was going to say chuck him in the cell, but I didn't think he was going to selflessly allow himself, and obviously he was surprised. He didn't think they were
yeah.
actually
I
going
don't
to
think
tick him.
he meant to
Yeah,
either. But
but he was willing to accept the consequence because I think that's something he could have backed out of once he got. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But he committed to it. So yeah, I don't know. They're definitely not in a good situation, and we only know it's only gonna get like 10 times worse once the shoulder people get involved. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. Shoulder people.
I don't have
Yeah,
I don't know what their names are yet, and I'm not I don't know that's the part of them that scares me. Just the that's the insidious element. So, that that parasitic thing we saw in Londo is what has me alarmed. Um,
hmm
but yeah, so I don't know. I thought this was a really good episode. And the scene, where Sheridan kind of rebukes the council. It was really weirdly edited, by the way. They were going for some kind of hyper reality effect, I think.
like Russian
And
like homicide, life on the streets or something when they were editing that.
yeah,
But
because he was
it
like, "You
was
want
very
war?"
very.
And then he went and said the next thing. Okay, you can have. And it was fine. It's just that I think it was one of those things where at the time when it came out, it looked a lot more sleek than now. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
That
yeah, it was very 90s editing effect, definitely. 'Cause, yeah, I mean, Homicide: Life on the Streets would do that a lot in its first season, and so
okay.
I think
It could
I
have been
think that
worse. It could have
crept
been an
into the
Ally
show.
McBeal edit or
Yeah, a little
yeah.
CGI guy dancing baby came across the screen
CGI or
while
like weird sound effects and to tonal shifts and just there could have been
yeah,
like the roar of a lion when Jakar walked in the room. Who knows what they could have done? Just something that just again that hyper realistic thing that was sort of in the air at the time.
yeah. But it was jarring though, the editing in that scene. It was just because it didn't. I mean, sometimes they get creative with the directing in this, and it works really well. I have to say, but in this one, that just felt kind of jarring. They're just like, no.
But basically Sheridan's mad that they want war, and this was not supposed to be about war, and so they're getting war, damn it, and
Yeah,
and
or yeah,
so yeah, I don't know, but there's a very dysfunctional relation. The council is very dysfunctional, and I feel like I don't know, they really need to sort of they need to give the people that are on the council a sense of clarity about what they've achieved. Do you know what I mean? It's like people have forgotten, just how much they've done together, and they just go right back to their bickering over really petty
yeah.
things.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish that more of that we had a little more character development on some of the alliance members, because they are the Precuri and the Drazi and everything. They're always kind of generic characters, and it's like I wish we had just a little more depth going on in that section of the show. But
And
uh,
oh, oh, go ahead.
no, that's
Oh, but I was gonna say, and they had there was a cool scene with Franklin and Veer. I think it was this episode where Veer escorted Franklin, and I think it was the Precuri
yeah.
attacked him, and they both, Franklin got. I haven't seen him spring into action like that in a while, so that was nice reminder. And Veer handled himself as capably as Veer could. I think he got one good wallop in at the end there.
Yeah, we actually in the earlier episode forgot to mention him taking the stand apart in the Zocalo with a sword. That was a big Veer moment we completely skipped over there.
It was, but he was still Veer in that moment. His
true.
posture was bad. It was, he did not look like a warrior. He looked like a guy who was wildly swinging a sword for the first time, and just the craziness of it. Was Drazi, right? It was a Drazi merchant that he.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that's what sort of pacified the guy. I almost thought that Londo had planted the bug himself to instigate the whole thing. That was my initial suspicion. But yeah, so then the whole point was, okay, now Veer is ready to be the ambassador. So we've had sort of like a full arc of development for Veer now, and he's ready to take over. So I mean, we're coming up on the 50-minute mark. So I don't know if there's anything else that we need to go over for this episode, or any additional thoughts.
I think we've covered it. Yeah, I've said all I have to say. So, yep, two more podcasts to go if we keep to the usual watching schedule.
All right, so we'll have two more. Yeah, so two more podcasts of Babylon 5, where we'll do probably 3 episodes in each one, unless we decide to do 3 because we want to do the final one on its own or something. And then we're gonna, I guess we're gonna jump into Return of Condor Heroes at that point. So I should probably prepare people, because when we first started this, we were doing like very brief. We would do like Doctor Who one day, and then another show another day, and then we did Babylon 5, and it was kind of more of a long form. Okay, we're gonna stick with this one show, and we're gonna, at least for Return of Condor Heroes, we're gonna do something similar where we follow beginning to end of Return of Condor Heroes. And it's not quite as long as Babylon 5, but it is 50 episodes. So it's, what is that, like a 3/4 or half of Babylon 5? Is that...
It's about 2 seasons worth, so it's less.
Is it? Okay, so it's way less than... But it's still, that's 2 seasons is a long time.
That's a long haul, yeah.
So we're going to cover Return of Condor Heroes. And this is, like, again, I'm sure a lot of people listening know what it is. But for those who don't, it is a really classic wuxia story. It's the second story in a 3-part trilogy. And movies like The One-Armed Swordsman are based in part on scenes from the Return of Condor Heroes story. And so if you haven't actually even seen, the story itself, you've probably caught glimpses of it in different movies that have drawn, bits of inspiration from it. But it's about a heroic couple, Yanghua and Zhao Longnu, and they are super famous. They are so famous that if you've ever seen the movie Zhang Hu Hustle, there's a scene, and Kenny is the one who pointed this out to us when we were doing our, I think our Shaolin Soccer discussion. But there's a scene where they meet 2 people, and in the English dub, they say, "Oh, we're, I think like Paris and Helen of Troy," something like that, like, or some really big, duo from from Western literature. In the original, it's Yanghua and Zhao Longnu, and so that's how that they were struggling to come up with a comparison. And they came up with Paris and Helen of Troy. So
it's an odd one to pick, but okay.
I might have the names wrong too. It might have been some other famous group.
No, I think it was actually, because I was in on the Shaolin Soccer podcast, but I didn't. I wasn't familiar with Condor Heroes at the time, so I didn't get the other side of it. But I think you've got the right one.
Okay, but so it's either them, or if not, it's some comparable figures from Greek legend. But the idea is that's how. And again, Condor Heroes is much newer. It was written in the 50s, but it's so prevalent. It's it's so omnipresent on TV and in movies that you I think in China they call it the Louis Cha phenomena. They use his Chinese name, but it's like it's just a very well known show. Like you like they make Return of Condor Heroes dramatic series like almost twice a decade, it seems. Like once or twice a decade you get a new version of it, and so it's just very well known. And so we'll be covering the 2006 version, and the reason that we chose that is because this is going to be Adam's first venture into a wuxia dramatic series, and I think it would be. I was originally going to have him watch the 1983 version, and I think it's I think that might be a big jump to sort of dive into. So 2006, it's a nice compromise because it's new, but I don't recall them changing the source material too much. I think it generally sticks with it. It's not like, say, the 2014 version where they really take a lot of liberties. So I think it's a good choice. And if not, I just reread the Return of Condor Heroes, so I should be able to comment on any changes that are made. So we'll be back on in a few days with the next Babylon 5, and then after that you can look forward to the Condor Heroes things. If you want to learn more about the Condor Heroes, you can check out our podcast on Friday. I've been doing read-throughs with Kenny of the whole book, so you'll get a sense of what the story is and some of our thoughts on it. And you can also just find a translation of the book online and read it. It's fully translated. There's you can go to places like the Wuxia Society and get a translation of it. It's definitely worth reading, and it's about 40 chapters, so it is a little bit of a time investment. But what I did was I read it 5 chapters at a time for the podcast, and I found that to be a very leisurely pace where you still get through it, but you just take more time. So if you don't want to sit and read 40 chapters at once, just try pacing it out. So anyways, we'll be back on, and we will talk to you later.